Awesome. Okay, let's start. So you might not be able to see this, but these people can. So if you want to watch the replay, just let me know. So how's it going, everyone? In this call, I'm going to teach you how to stop sabotaging yourself in 3 steps. I'll go through each step very carefully so it can fully sink in for you. And if you want to stick around at the end, I'm going to talk about what I'm currently offering for life coaching services right now and how you can work with me if you are interested. So self-sabotage is really just a way for us to quit and give up on ourselves ahead of time. It's a way to not ever have to plan any goals out, any goals that actually scare you, and risk failing at them. You get to skip all of that when you're self-sabotaging. It's a severe lack of awareness and responsibility over the control you have in your life. It's really a constant state of fear and disempowerment. Those feelings are dominant in your body. Other feelings like blame and regret are dominant. Guilt and shame. It's a trash way to exist. So let's learn how to stop all of that today. Okay. All right. So self-sabotage is caused by 3 things. It's going to be a victim mode. It's going to be unnecessarily complicating things for yourself. And it's going to be a state of comparison you're in. You know what these things look like already, but I'm going to remind you really quick before we get to the 3 steps. So victim mode looks like nothing is ever your fault. All the current circumstances of your life happened outside of your control and you had no say in any of it. And as a result, you feel really sorry for yourself. When you think about what you want, how you don't have it, you just feel really sorry because nothing is ever your fault. Nothing has been your fault. And yet you're still miserable. It's really the poor me story that all humans are inclined to. You always are the righteous person, and someone or something else is in the wrong, always, right? If they would just change or stop or do it better, you'd finally get to stop feeling sorry for yourself. You really want to stop feeling sorry for yourself, but you can't. Like you want that, but you can't because none of your circumstances have changed. So if only they would change, you'd finally have the permission you need so you can feel empowered, so you can feel confident. And so you're just in this place of waiting to get out of victim mode, waiting for something outside of you to take you out of it. This is not how it works. You can't get to where you want to be by feeling sorry for yourself, by blaming the world. It's on you to be aware of the control and energetic influence that you bring into everything you do, everywhere you go. Victims never know they are in victim mode because they feel so justified in it really not being their fault. So, of course, victims, the people in this place aren't coming out and being like, I'm going to act like a victim today and be super miserable in my life. Like, that's what I'm going to choose. No one would choose this mental state once they had awareness over it. And this is so hard to break out of because it's disguised by this righteousness. Our brain uses all of this sound logic and intellect. It makes it sound so real, and it argues for us to keep being miserable, operating in a victim mode without realizing how much it's hurting us and slowing us down. So I have so much compassion for people that are in this place because I was totally there. I remember in therapy like 10 years ago, I had to get to that point where I was like having to admit that I felt really sorry for myself. And that's hard for your ego, for your pride. So I get it. That shit's hard. I had been feeling so sorry for myself for so long. It was like I lived in a sad music video. Like you just like imagine little Alicia looking out of a car window and it's raining and I'm listening to Adele and I'm just like so sorry for myself. So I thought my life was like this poor, innocent orphan story And I was so deserving of everything working out for me. And when things kept going wrong and not working out, and they fell out of my control, I was such a victim. That's what I chose. So I felt entitled to something happening for me, like something coming in and fixing it. I didn't know what that would have been. I'm certain I thought it would be like a romantic partner, a job, or an opportunity. I was waiting for something. And so I kept showing up as a victim in that waiting. I felt like a victim. I only perceived my life through this cloudy lens of victimhood. And you can't get out of victim mode until you become more aware that you're in it. I had to really sit in that discomfort of seeing how I was placing all of this blame on other people, on other things that were really not to blame. It was not their fault. Bless all of their souls. Like, it was on me. You have to be ready to have compassion and forgiveness for yourself before you can really own that truth and start moving forward. You have to start paying more attention to your life if you really want to stop sabotaging it. And sometimes it's easier to just ignore and to keep going on autopilot and to not pay attention. But let me tell you, this is so much harder. It's so much harder to exist this way. And the net negative effect is always going to hurt you. So it's worth it to pay attention and to sit in this discomfort. So next we have unnecessarily complicating things. And that looks like getting caught up in and distracted by the trivial, useless things in life. The he said, she said, the I'm right and you're wrong debates that people love nowadays. This uses so much of our finite energy, and it makes it so we can't use that energy to create a different life. Creating a different future for yourselves takes so much focus, time, and energy. And when we are using all of those things on unnecessarily complicating the shit out of our lives, we are spending money we don't have. We are being pretty reckless with our one shot here at life, like just wasting it. If we want to stop sabotaging ourselves, we have to develop the ability to control our focus, control our time and energy. We are out of control when we're complicating things. Otherwise, everything would feel a lot easier. So no control equals no chance at creating structured plans for yourself and following through. When we complicate things, we do get a trade-off. Like, that's why we're choosing this. We get to procrastinate our growth. We get to say, oh, I'll get to it later. This is just too complicated right now. We get to keep blaming other things for why we can't do it now. We get to repeat and recycle our old patterns that aren't going anywhere until we start this work. We get to keep choosing fear because it's familiar. So we choose fear. Everyone else is choosing fear. Why can't we keep choosing fear? Love is so much harder to choose. If people really understood that, they'd see that they've not been choosing love. It's way harder to choose that. We get to keep the discomfort of stagnancy and staying confused over the discomfort of discipline and being really good at making decisions for yourself. That's a different kind of vibe. So finally, we have comparison. This is the last little bit that self-sabotage is caused by. And when I think of the epitome of self-sabotage, I think of how we as humans incessantly compare ourselves to others. We choose to partake in this act of comparison. When we choose this, when we hold up what and who we are against someone else's story, we are sending ourselves the message that we aren't enough. This is what's happening 10 layers down that you're not really noticing. We're telling ourselves we aren't smart enough. We aren't capable enough. We aren't good enough. We aren't worthy enough, right? Those people are worthy, but I'm not. That's what's really going on. And so we believe other people can do all the things. They deserve all the things, but we don't. If we didn't have these suspicious beliefs, we would not be comparing. That transaction wouldn't be taking place in our mind and emotional bodies. And it wouldn't be called that. It would just be looking out at other people, seeing what they're doing, seeing what they're accomplishing, and then feeling either indifferent, just like, oh, or feeling like happy for them or celebrating them, like, oh, congratulations. Or maybe even feeling bad, like, oh, I can see you're in a hard place, but not judging them for that, right? There's no judgment. Looking at someone's life shouldn't create emotional suffering for you. And when that's happening for us, it's because we are in the fires of self-sabotage. So these three things interfere with our goals, our growth, and ultimately our ability to feel happy in our lives. And I don't really like to use that word happy because I don't really think that's what we're looking for. We're looking for an ability to feel fulfilled, self-sufficient, and more at peace, right? More relaxed in our lives. That's way more rewarding than happy. Happy is nice, but it's not everything. So we want to get to a place where you can wake up in the morning and think, holy shit, I am so lucky to be me. And you actually believe that. You're not just like lying to yourself and repeating mantras. That doesn't work. You get to think, I am so grateful that this is my life. I'm so excited about my life. If you aren't there yet, that is totally normal and okay. It makes sense why you aren't there, just based on the world we exist in today, based on the world we're coming from. But don't mistake the fact that you aren't there right now to mean that you'll never get there. I'm pretty vocal about how I used to be severely depressed and anxious, like in my teen and early 20s. And in fact, I have a podcast coming out about all of my stories from when I was so depressed, drunk and blacked out all the time, so anxious, so dysregulated, and how I was able to overcome all of that. I used to want to be anyone else but me. I felt that deep in my soul. I hated being alone with me. I wanted to escape myself. I was like, oh my God, someone get me out of here. So if I can go from there to where I am now, in this place of feeling really excited about my life and excited to be me, from hating myself to genuinely adoring myself, from feeling helpless in my life to fearlessly deciding who I want to be and how I want to feel, so can you. So just remember that. All right. A couple more things before we get to the steps. So self-sabotage, if we could sum it up concisely, it looks like becoming so distracted and consumed by the imagined drama of our present that we never make the time to plan out a different future. So look at these really. Look at what it is. This makes it sound less sexy, less enticing. We stay stuck in our current story instead of using our time to create an entirely new story, one that we want. We stay in this primitive, fearful experience of our past, repeating those traumas, repeating those patterns, instead of doing the work to create a different, better experience that is available to every human being. If you have a brain, a different experience is available to you because your brain can change. So if no one's told you that, or if someone's made it sound more complicated than that, I'm sorry, and you can change. You can create a calmer experience if that's what you want, a more rewarding experience, whatever you want it to be, you can create it. And it's just an experience of planning your life ahead of time, using your current life right now to plan ahead of time, the way you want it to be and feel, and following through on that plan, and then blowing your mind when what you planned actually happens. That's the cycle. This is a process I've taken myself through a dozen or more times in the last few years in little areas of my life. Like, let me start in this area, let me start in this area, until I'm doing it everywhere all at once. And I'm never going to stop doing it, right? I'm always going to be checking my story, reimagining it, and planning it how I want it to be. Because I'm a part of nature, right? Mother Earth, I'm alive, just like a tree, and nature never stops growing. So why should I? Why should I stay stagnant? Why should I plateau and stay there? I don't want to do that. Let's keep going. So in order to do this, you have to stop sabotaging yourself. That comes first. You have to abandon your old way of operating and the old systems you've been using and reinstall a completely new way of functioning. This is painful. This is very hard. Your brain does not like this. It can do it, but it's going to fight you every step of the way. But you're in control of your brain. So it's not up to your brain what happens next for you. It's up to your own willingness to manage your brain. Self-sabotage is a choice. It's a choice in perception, in emotion, and in behavior. And if we don't become aware that it is a choice, we'll keep sacrificing a new future for ourselves that we really want for the comfort and the familiar drama that we find ourselves in right now. So I'm here to teach you how to stop sabotaging yourself. That's why we're on this call. If you follow these 3 steps I'm about to give you, I promise you, you will free up so much space in your life to plan your future and to blow your mind. But you have to actually do all of them, right? Your brain will try to talk you out of 1 or 2 steps, or your brain will try to tell you, oh, you already are doing that, so don't worry about trying that one. You will find yourself frustrated and back where you started eventually if you don't do all of these things. So this is only for people who are really willing to set their pride aside, set their ego down, and are ready to actually stop sabotaging. They're ready to be in pain for a while, to be uncomfortable, to actually change. If that's you, let's go. It's really easy. These are the 3 steps. Okay, stop talking and start observing. Recognize your responsibility and stop comparing yourself. So let's go into each one much deeper. So stop talking. You have to go through a season in your life where you shut your mouth. This is so necessary. If we don't, all we will do is continue to talk about our problems. That is all we ever do. We talk about what's wrong, what needs to be fixed and changed, what's not working. We let our mouth run so much, we start to only see the negative, the problems. We completely lose our capacity to feel appreciation and gratitude and just genuinely okay with where we are right now. I remember the first time someone told me to shut the fuck up in the nicest way possible, and it changed my life completely. If you continue to let yourself keep talking the way you've been talking, keep running your mouth about all your problems, you will not have the chance to change. My nose is running. It's allergy season, guys. And I need water. I got sunburnt yesterday. Okay. If you don't stop and bite your tongue long enough, you'll never understand why you need to stop. I want you to stop talking and start observing for a good long while. You are putting on, oh, I'm wearing a white shirt, like a white coat, like a scientist, and you're collecting data. You're observing what you think, what you find yourself wanting to say in any given moment, and why you're wanting to say that. You're going to notice the way you feel most days. You're going to have to start observing those things, what emotions are driving you. You're going to look at all the ways you're showing up in your life or all the ways you're not showing up at all the ways you're hiding or avoiding things. So look at the ways you complain. Look at how you create bigger problems for yourself everywhere you go. You really have to stop and look at that. Look at the victim mentality that's there. You aren't marked safe from having a victim mentality unless you've had a lobotomy. So don't judge what you find, just notice it. Try to go one full day without saying anything negative or whiny or automatically compulsive. Try to stop that momentum and actually attempt to see things in a different way. You'll never change the way you look at things if you don't stop talking. So sit in the silence, look at your thoughts for like 5 minutes a day or just one if that feels too scary. And this will feel impossible. You won't be able to go a day without your current patterns of thoughts completely overwhelming you and overtaking you. But that's the point, because you'll suddenly start to notice just how often you want to complain, you want to talk negatively, you want to create problems where they don't need to exist. Your brain wants to keep using the same energy in the same negative direction it's been going because that's how it's wired. So you're not wrong or bad for having this negative focus in your life. You're human. You're just like the rest of us. If you want to overcome this aspect of our evolution, you have to stop constantly talking for a while. Whatever your brain has been offering you, you have been thinking it's an almighty truth. It's not. Just watch and notice that voice. Notice the half-truths. Notice the assumptions, the black or white thinking, the blame. Stop that powerful momentum by biting your tongue in situations you normally wouldn't. Stop it in its track and just watch how it's so inclined to keep moving you that way. You do not want to keep moving that way. I know you don't, because I've been there. It felt out of my control. I was like, why am I walking this way when I want to be going that way? You have to set aside your pride here and just shut it. Take whatever season you're in to try this out. If you do, you'll start to switch this direction. You'll start to slow that momentum you have going long enough to stop, reverse it, and you can send it moving in the opposite direction, the direction you want it to go. This takes effort, a different kind of effort, and self-control. And it's hard. And it takes time. You don't get to switch this in one day. You have to take it one day at a time, actually trying to stop complaining, stop gossiping, stop talking bad about other people, especially about your husband and your boss. Just stop. You're not allowed to do it anymore. You're only allowed to notice how often you want to do it. And then you shut up after that in the most nice way possible. All right. Okay, recognize your responsibility. This is step 2. Easy. Just another thing you just have to notice, right? We're not asking you to change everything here. We're asking you to recognize it. There's only one reason anything in your life ever feels complicated. And that reason is because you have not recognized your responsibility in the matter. That's why everything seems complicated. You're putting your business in someone else's hand, your responsibility outside of you. That complicates the hell out of things. You've been choosing to forego your responsibility and to not own the results you have been in charge of creating. Once you're an adult, it is your responsibility. You kind of get a free pass up until then. Once you're an adult, I would say 18 years old, it's your job. It's in your control. When it comes to our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors that we create in our lives, all of that is ours. It's our responsibility alone, our business, our domain, not anyone else's, not your parents, not your friends, not your boss, not your spouse, not your kids, yours. We get so confused by whose business is whose because our society has taught us that it's possible for someone else to cause or control the way you feel. This is something I take my clients through when I'm like, remember in elementary school when we're told like, hey, you hurt this person's feelings, you need to apologize and you need to take responsibility for hurting their feelings. That has got us fucked up. That has got us backwards. It would have been making much more sense to say, I understand he did this thing. He's going to be accountable for it, but he does not have the power to control your emotions. So how do you want to feel about this? Because we don't have to feel helpless at the actions of someone else where we'll never have control. We don't have to feel helpless to that. We can feel however we want to feel. So I'm here to tell you that this is physically, mentally, and scientifically impossible for someone else to cause your feelings or for you to cause someone else's feelings. If you feel guilty or regret because you're believing you hurt or did something to someone else, physically impossible. Let it go. Even if you believe that's what's been happening for 60 years, it's time to get schooled today about how it works. There's no need to lie to yourself any longer. You're not responsible for anyone else's emotions. You're only responsible for yours. This isn't permission to go act like a dick. This doesn't ever lead to that, though. When we're really starting to take accountability and ownership for what we're creating, how we're feeling, this is freeing. We're actually showing up better in our relationships. So we have to have a cold turkey moment and stop blaming our feelings or what we have created in our lives so far on other people. This includes how your parents raised and treated you. This includes any of your past traumas. This includes the systems of capitalism and oppression that we live and operate under. This includes people that have wronged us, whether there's been, betrayal, theft, abuse, lying, cheating, ripping us off, whatever. I am not saying, again, that we condone abusive behavior. I'm not saying we agree with it. I'm not saying we lay it down and condone it. No, we take responsibility for how we choose to react to those things, how we choose to think about all the shittiness, and how we want to feel. We take responsibility for that. We don't have to condone or agree with it. We have to take complete ownership for where we are in our lives and why. It's no longer due to the things outside of us. It's what we are creating. So we do not blame our past or other people or the government for why we can't get ahead or be who we want to be. No matter how unfair some things really seem, and trust me, I'm coming from this place of where I thought it was so unfair, right? Remember my poor me story? But taking responsibility for what we have created in our lives is our job. We can't wait for the government to do it. They're not doing it. They can't even handle themselves, honey. They're falling apart, crumbling from the inside. Got to have that compassion. So this includes student debt, the career you're in, how much money you've made up into this point, your living situation, your family situation, your relationship status, your annual income, the health of your body, the health of your mind and your habits. All of that is your job. No one else's. I used to think the government and my ex-boyfriend needed to change how they operated before I could take responsibility. I was like, oh yeah, I'll take responsibility once they're different. And I was so convicted in my righteousness that this is how it should be. And I can't do anything about the way it is until they change. This is powerlessness. You'll be waiting forever, wasting potential, wasting the capacity of your true impact if you keep choosing to live in a powerless place. We don't want to choose this. We want to stop this. So I replicated this pattern in every other area of my life. I was powerless in all of my relationships. I was powerless at my job and in how much money I made. I was powerless in how I used my time and my health. It was all someone else's job or someone else's fault for what I had. It was someone else's responsibility. For a very long time, I was waiting. Like I said, waiting in my victim story, waiting in my hopeless, disempowered, paralyzed place. So I had to grieve the amount of time I spent doing this once I stepped into awareness. I had to actually be like, wow, that was like 10 years. If I had only set aside my ego a little bit sooner, what could have I created by now? That's heavy. That's what I mean by this is hard. But I didn't stay in that place. I allowed myself to grieve and feel really disappointed in what I had chosen for so long. And then I just decided to start right now. Decide again. Keep trying. You have to take responsibility first. That exchange has to happen. And like, you really have to feel it before you'll be able to change anything internally and eventually externally. We are sabotaging ourselves when we designate even an ounce of responsibility for our lives outside of ourselves. That is self-sabotage. Take it back, put it all back on you. You're the only one who can do something about it. It is your job, your future, your outcomes. It's no one else's business but yours. So stop waiting on things to shift on their own, because they quite literally won't until you make this internal shift. You can make it right now if you want. You doing it? Okay. Sunny's such a good girl. She's a good office dog. Okay, step 3, final step is stop comparing yourself. Everyone is using their 5 incredible senses to torture themselves. They are using them to live in a world of pain instead of to enjoy their lives, like really experience their lives. You were given eyes and ears and a nose and a whole ass body to enjoy your physical experience, not to numb or distract or buffer your experience away, but to be in this experience and delight in it, not to make it a prison of pain and despair. When we compare ourselves and our progress and our accomplishments to any other person, whether which way you go, better or worse, it's actually the most like successful people we usually like to do this to. We lock ourselves in a prison. We lock our senses in a torture chamber. And with social media now, it's so easy to see and hear and feel what everyone else is doing and creating. But you have to be in charge of protecting yourself first. If you're looking at other people and you're not in that indifferent or genuinely positive place, and you're looking at them growing and succeeding, and you're choosing not to celebrate with them, you're choosing to live in a prison instead. If that's what's happening, then just stop looking for a while. Just put it away, right? Unfollow the people that make you feel that way. Only look at yourself for a while, right? This is coming with that stop talking aspect of this. Cut yourself off until you can figure out how to see and look at other people's success differently, because it's not them making you feel tortured. You make yourself feel tortured, right? They're just living their lives. You have to set parameters to protect yourself. No one else is going to do it. People aren't going to slow down their success to make you feel better about yourself. And they shouldn't. That's not their job. They're going to go keep doing their thing. So don't follow a bunch of people or consume a bunch of content that makes you feel like shit. When you choose to compare yourself, whether it's subconscious or conscious, instead of honoring and respecting yourself, you are self-sabotaging. You're taking yourself in that direction you don't want to be going in. You're so much more inclined to quit and give up ahead of time and despair over where you are in life. This comparison fuels that victim mode. It fuels that poor me story. And so whenever you are in your life, wherever you are in your life is where you're supposed to be. Like, that's just true. Wherever you are, you're supposed to be there. But you can't recognize or even attempt to believe that when you're constantly looking at other people's achievements, comparing your progress to theirs. So stop. Don't compare the chapter you're in to the one someone else is in. Every single chapter is important to the uniqueness of your story. If you could look at it that way, like you are this beautiful novel. And when you are trying to skip ahead to someone else's book and chapter, you're ruining the fucking book. You would never pick up a book and be at chapter 2 and think, this isn't going right. Something's wrong. We need to change the book or flip ahead and skip 10 chapters. No, every little detail is so important. and you want to enjoy those details. They matter. They're intentional. That's not how we read books. You're right where you need to be. Once you see and really believe it to be that way, you'll see how insane it felt, how torturous it felt to want to rush through the incredible stages of your life. Someone else's there is not better than your here. And that's true even when your brain starts to believe your future there will be better than the here you're in now. This is so painful. It won't be better. It won't. You'll still have the same human brain and the same negative emotions there that you have here. If you're believing there is better than here about anything in your life, right? When you have more money there, when you have a better job there, when you have better relationships or whatever it is, that's a sign that you are not managing or watching or choosing what you want to think and believe. You're self-sabotaging. That is self-sabotage. That's a sign you aren't taking responsibility for how you feel. You aren't recognizing your responsibility in the matter. You're still believing that the good feelings are all created by what people have or what they achieve. This is all a big fat lie. You control how you feel in every given moment based on what you're thinking. And any feeling you could ever want is already available to you right now. But when we are self-sabotaging, we're making that simple truth so much more complicated than it needs to be. And we make the availability of any emotional state impossible. We're stuck in this negative emotional state. That's all we conceive as available to us, as the negative, the hardship, the victim mode. We choose to be stubborn in this way. We choose to continue our poor me story and to view things in a very scarce and immature way over an empowered and responsible way that feels so much better. We choose to not be our own solution. Do you hear that? We choose to not be our solution. We choose to be our problem. You are either being your problem or you're being your solution. You can only be one of those two things. It could never be anyone else in either of those roles. No one else can be your problem. Only you can. No one else can be your solution, right? Only you can. Once we become hyper aware of this, we are so much less inclined to sabotage our growth. So what comes next once we successfully stop doing this? Once we do all three of these steps and completely stop sabotaging ourselves? Well, we would start by just celebrating that. Like, right, let's slow down a little bit and celebrate that huge feat. And then we have the space to plan for our future. We get to overcome all the obstacles standing in the way of that plan. That's part of the process. Planning for a future you want brings up all your shit. That's how it's supposed to work. And then we get to learn to trust ourselves to follow through in that process and to continue through, no matter how hard it gets. So that's it. Those are the 3 steps. That's how you stop sabotaging yourself. And if you want to stick around, I am going to talk about what it would look like to work with me as your coach and how you can sign up for my current offer if you're interested. So it really doesn't matter where you might be on this scale of sabotage, whether you are in the throes of sabotage, like where I was at the beginning, just like a master at all 3 of those causes of sabotage. You might be in that stage of awareness already where you're already noticing, like, why am I doing this? Why am I choosing this? Or you might have already successfully stopped sabotaging yourself and you're ready for what's next. And you just don't know how to plan that future or to take that process on. And so as a general life coach, I can help you navigate any of these stages until you've figured out how to be fully in control of your thinking, your emotions, and how to own what you create in your life. That is what I have been trained to do by the life coach school. Oh, this is mirrored. Yeah, baby, that's it. Okay, so in working with me, there is a teaching portion and a coaching portion. We have both. The teaching portion is the implementation of these skills. These are skills. It's like learning a language or an instrument. I'm not kidding. You can't just read or hear this webinar and then think you have the skill. I teach you like a teacher would teach a language or an instrument. And so not sabotaging yourself is one of these skills. And it's a skill you build by managing your brain, creating emotions on purpose, and processing the hard ones that we avoid. And so you're not entitled to knowing how to do all of this until you're willing to sit and be the student, right? I'm still the student in my life. I'm still learning. I'm still growing, but I am at a place where I am the teacher as well. So we teach concepts and tools that build off of each other week after week. It makes it kind of that like gradual growth where it feels slow, and then it just takes off from there. When it all integrates, it all clicks, and then you have that shift and that aha moment. So that makes it so much easier and much less painful to navigate the next part, the planning the future and actually creating it. Once you know how to manage your brain, feel your feelings, do all these things, take that responsibility that's yours and give back everything that's not yours, you have the opportunity to follow through, to take risks. You're ready for that. Most of us think we're ready to get to the planning, like let's go set the goals and let's go follow through and make this work. But what I find is most clients aren't ready for that, right? We're missing these basics. It's like a toddler wanting to learn how to be in a race before they've learned how to walk. And so we have to be willing to go in, tear down these old ways of operating, and then you get to put in what works for you. You get to decide what that is. In the coaching portions of the call, that's what I help you do. I help you identify these old operating systems, right? These are our old patterns, our old traumas, all these things that we want to be really careful how we think about so we don't keep repeating them unconsciously. And then you get to decide from there how you want to change it. I am never telling you what operating system to implement because that is none of my goddamn business. I only decide on my own. I get to pick for me because that's my responsibility, right? That's no one else's business but me. I do help you get really good at making these valuable decisions that are the most like authentic and connected to what's true for you. When we leave decisions open-ended, when we stay in a place of confusion, we are severing that trust. We are indulging in confusion and scarcity and not moving forward. So I help you make decisions that feel good and feel right. And we move forward, right? We don't get hung up. And that's why we need a coach to help our blind spots, because if I didn't have my coach, I would be confused all the time. I would choose that. I would choose to stay safe and scared. So we don't realize it before we start this work, but we can choose something different for our lives at any given moment. This is so cool. Like, why aren't we taught this in kindergarten? We aren't locked into how we've always done things or who we've always been. The human brain has the capacity to change incredibly fast and in an incredibly efficient way if we allow it, if we manage it, if we stop letting it control the show and we start controlling it. That's what I teach. I teach you so much about your brain so you're no longer confused and feel crazy about why you do things. If you have a hard time grappling with your pride, with your ego, this process takes a lot longer. That's okay. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it if you've got that problem. I had a big ego. I'll be honest. I was like, no, I already know everything. I'm good. And I had to have coach after coach sit me down and be like, honey, you're hurting yourself, right? Pay attention. So the truth is we don't have to change if we don't want to. This is only for people that really want something different in their lives and what they've been trying hasn't been working. This is for the people that want something better. They see themselves already in this like higher version. And so it's supposed to be fun and exciting and not like a painful, miserable experience, although it is hard. It's that little voice in your brain that like believes you can do this, that wants it so bad. The childlike part of you that's open to trying something new and giving it a shot. I will say, life coaching is that way, right? A lot of things haven't worked. So I understand why people are skeptical on like someone promising like, oh, you can do it, because a lot of things haven't worked. And we live in a society of advertisements where they're always promising these things that they really won't deliver, right? Promising the beauty or the style or the money or the success. That is not what gives that to you. Life coaching it's new on the block, it's booming, and it transforms your life fast. I was re-signing a client last week, and we finished our 12 weeks of working together. And, at that point, they have the option to re-sign. And so I'm asking about her experience with all of this. And she said, I'm genuinely unbothered by the stuff I have been in therapy for 2 years trying to be unbothered by. I thought that was such an incredible way to put it. Like in 12 weeks, she accomplished something she's been trying and grappling with for years. And that's been taking up her energy. And she's already able to stop sabotaging herself in that way and move that momentum in a different direction. So that's just in one go of working together. And that's what I offer is 12 weeks at a time. One-on-one. We meet once a week for an hour-long call where we do this lesson, we do the coaching and the teaching. And I choose 12 weeks at a time because I don't want people committing to more time than they might need. Like I said, everyone's at different stages in their lives. So I'm not going to make you promise to do 8 months if you only need those 12 weeks. But less than 12 weeks is not nearly enough time to at least integrate and practice this, because really that's just the beginning of changing and shifting that momentum and getting it going the way you want it to go. Most of my clients choose to continue going because they want to build off of that momentum. They want to keep going. They don't want to slow their progress by trying to go it alone after just getting started. So with all of that said, if you're interested in working together, then go to my website. It's aliciaturnercoaching.com. If you don't know how to spell my name, because it is different, please look at my username wherever you're watching this from. It's going to be spelled out there. And you go there, you book a free consultation. You can schedule right on the website. Just click work with me. The free consult, that's going to be 1 hour. And I take you through a very simple process to see where you're at now, really where you're at on the scale of self-sabotage, because we're all there, right? We all have the same human brain. And we look at where you want to be. And so I get to gather all that information and decide from there if this is the right journey. And you also have a decision to make, right? I want to make sure you feel good about this decision. If you don't, I suggest you don't sign up, right? So you get to have your decision. I get to have mine based on if we're a good fit. So if you want to, go to the website and schedule that consult if this is you, right? If you're really wanting that best version of your life and just get going in that direction. A note on that, being ready for this journey, it usually looks like being really nervous, scared, and uncertain. People come on a consult and they feel like, oh, I'm really nervous. And I'm like, oh, you're supposed to feel that way. It's not easy to make a big giant life change like this, like hiring a life coach. Hiring a coach that will actually get you results, that will actually deliver on what you're wanting. That is scary. That is terrifying. So you're supposed to sit with that nervous, barfy feeling and still schedule it. If you wait until you feel amazing about it, you're never going to do it, because that's not going to come. I have gone through like trembling fear signing up for my first few coaching programs, one-on-one coaching, and eventually my certification. Like I felt awful. I wanted to barf. And so it's not supposed to feel easy and light and fun. It's supposed to feel fucking terrifying because you're about to change your life. You're about to go all in on yourself. So don't take that feeling you might be having if you're wanting to do this and let that fear continue to sabotage, right? That's your brain trying to keep you from changing. It likes to sabotage. It's comfy and cozy in the cave here. So if you want to create a different future, this is part of that process. You feel afraid. And then we get on the call and you'll feel so much better because I'm right there with you. I will be loving you. I'll be holding space for you. And I know how to guide you through this. So it has been my pleasure to hang out with you guys today. please message me or reach out if you have any questions, or if you want to book that consult and you don't see any times available, just talk to me. We can make it happen. And have a wonderful Saturday. Thank you for joining me. And I'll see you next time. I'm going to go sit in the sun. All right, let me end these. Bye.